Everybody, we've already did our approval of agenda and disclosures of interest, so we'll move right into unfinished business, which is the AMO training. Counselor, head of council training.
Yeah, we just need confirmation in terms of the dates, that anyone wants to attend. Once we know, we can register for it, so.
And we just have to register the once, if there's a bunch of us attending? Yes, participation is limited.
Yeah.
So, somebody pick a date, I'm good for any of these dates. January 18th?
What, you make anyone work? Yep.
Dan, how about you?
When's Roma?
Eh?
When is Roma?
The end of the month.
22 to 24, I think.
Let's see,
So January 18th, you said?
Is that a good date with you?
I don't think I have anything scheduled for that date, so. What about you, Benji?
January 18th?
Yeah.
That should be fine, that's lots of notice. See why not?
And this is a full day workshop, yes?
I believe so.
Okay.
What day is that?
What day is that? Hang on, yeah.
So, Wednesday, I believe.
Oh, it's our council meeting.
I was just thinking the same thing. January, it would be the 11th and the 25th. So the 18th would be right in the middle.
Okay. That'll work. Sure.
I don't know if Dave Morrow wants to take it. Again, no?
He won't take
So
it.
there's three of us, and it looks
That's
like book us for January the 18th for the counselor training portion of it. And then you just have to decide, Mayor, when do you want to take yours?
I can't take any. Mine are all done this month,
Okay.
my dates. They have nothing in 2023 yet. So, it's just the one.
There you go, January the 18th.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, we'll move it, other business. Resolution 336-22,
No.
7,
pardon?
337.
Oh, yeah, right. 337-22. Moved by Councillor Bryson, second by Councillor McGrath, that bylaw 48-2022 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement between the Corporation of Township of Schreiber and His Majesty the King in Right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport, case number 2022-01-1666788-684 be given first, second, third, and final reading and enacted. Any discussion?
Nathan, can you just give them a little bit, what's this grant for?
This was for Heritage Days,
Okay.
and well, we were waiting for this agreement for a while, so it looks like there was a delay in sending it out. Now that it's here, the funds that they were giving us is, I believe it's approximately up to, about $7,000.
Okay.
Up to that, it's 50% of either use the $7,000 full or 50% of expenditures. So we need to spend about 14,000 of eligible expenditures to make the most of that money. Either way, whatever we can find, it will help subsidize
Okay.
a couple $1,000s off.
And the final report's due April the 4th?
Yep.
And who's responsible for that?
That will be our finance and special projects administrator, Kim.
Perfect.
Any more discussion? Hearing no more, all those in favor? Carried. Sign the rest of that. Resolution 338-22. Moved by Councillor Bryson, seconded by Councillor Forgeot. That bylaw 49-2022 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of agreement between the Corporation of Township of Schreiber and the Ontario Trillium Foundation for funding to replace boiler units at the Schreiber Municipal Complex, ID number CP 124448, be given first, second, third, and final reading and enacted. Discussion?
And again, Nathan, this is just to cover a capital purchase, right?
Exactly, and,
Okay.
you know, really good news.
Yes.
Yes.
Hearing no more, all those in favor? Carried.
The good thing about it is it's 100% eligibility, so we don't really have
Perfect.
to worry about sharing.
Madam Transfers.
There are no other resolutions other than the adjournment. They will come forward on the 13th.
Hey,
The other ones will come forward on the 13th. The resolution.
okay. So number 3 is transfers to and from reserves. You wanna talk to that, Nathan?
Yeah, and Marlene is, of course, here in order to go into further detail. So the first recommendation here, that council transfer to the cemetery reserve, $2,210, which represents 50% of the columbarium sales in 2021.
And this is due to the council of the day establishing 50% annual sales be put into reserve, right? And this is in case we ever need to build a second one.
Next recommendation, council transfer to the fire department truck reserve, $3,763.67, which represents surplus fees for service revenue for 2021.
And more information on that?
Marlene, did you wanna?
I'm not sure if
Why not?
anyone had an opportunity, I did respond to the email, so in the email, it's showing that you council budgets annually in the fire department for call-out fees. And what this is, it's a year-end transfer, in the event that there's more of a surplus in revenues than what was budgeted. So for this year, the surplus, after you take your revenues and your expenses out and you compare that to what was budgeted, is the $37,63.67.
Okay.
Next recommendation is that council transfer to the library donations and fundraising reserve, $1,020, which represents donation revenue in 2021. This is, the library again doesn't put forward an operating line for their fund raising that's received, so it's done through a reserve.
And what would they use these funds for, anything?
Marlene, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, so as Nathan said, they don't budget for anything in particular, really and truly. The last couple of years when you were kind of limited in what kind of fundraising you could do. But they have been putting aside a little bit that they earn in the year. Sometimes they do use their donations and fundraising for in-year projects. So if, like for 2022, there was a donation that was made for the, I don't know what they're called, it's the thing by the post office. I think like there's a little book thing where you can go in.
A little book building,
Yeah.
right?
So like
Their
there's-
book boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also in 2022, they are using some of that money in their reserve for their digitization project that they're doing, and that's a project that they have had on the books for
Right.
quite a while, that
Right.
they were only just recently able to get that done, and that's in, it's a joint project with the Township of Schreiber Library as well. They didn't end up getting the NOHFEC intern, but it has been budgeted in the past to fund their portion, because NOHFC interns are up to 90%.
Right.
There's a portion that has to be funded by the library board, so
So
we've done that in the past.
that allows them to do that then
Yeah.
too. Okay.
Next recommendation, that council transfer to the water and sewer reserve $75,297.61, which represents 2021 surplus sewer revenue. And following that council transfer to the water and sewer reserve $58,978.49, which represents 2021 surplus water revenue. Is there anything you want to add to that, Marlene?
Just like I see the email, but just for people watching, maybe just like a Cole's notes on why that happens.
Absolutely. So, both water and sewer budgets are budgeted zero balances. So the operating portion of your water and your sewer budgets are funded through the water and sewer ratepayers separately, because we don't have the same number of water ratepayers that we do sewer ratepayers. And so what happens is there are different line items that are done throughout the year where we budget based on averages. For
Right.
instance, for supplies and for equipment. And sometimes we have savings that do occur in these line items. And majority, and my email here's a little bit, even with the glasses on. The majority of the savings, we also budget for contingency, because our
Right.
infrastructure is very, in particular in the wastewater department, our infrastructure is very old, knock on wood, that things go and stay well. For instance, in 2022, we had one, I'm not sure if it was really specifically in order, but it was an $18,000 upgrade to a electrical receptacle. Correct me if I'm getting the technicalities wrong, but really was not forecasted in the budget. So we take, at the end of the year, after all of the adjustments are through, we take, if there is savings overall in each separate department, it gets tracked and it gets transferred to reserve.
Okay, so these were the amounts that were in surplus in 2021.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
if you want a little tiny bit more information.
Yeah, no, go
for
ahead.
instance,
No, absolutely.
The biggest significant factors are, like I said, with the sewer and the equipment, the supplies and the equipment, as well as the regular budgeted transfer to reserve. So that includes what was actually budgeted in addition to what surplus revenues there are.
Okay.
The only thing I didn't understand about all of that, Marlene, was the loan for the
Wastewater?
sewer, wastewater.
For the effluent.
Yeah.
So that was something in 2020 that was a new budget line, because we were, again, I'm not sure whether Nathan or Tammy can answer this. I don't know whether we were ordered or in the process of what we have to do to the effluent coming in, right? We were supposed to do a dechlor project, right? Ultraviolet. That's estimated at over $1 million. I thought it was closer to 2 million almost, to do that project. So we started with the loan repayment based on the idea that we were going to have to complete that project, that whole entire capital project, which we did not have to do in the end. Right now, what we're doing, so we budgeted that amount in 2020. It was based on interest rates at the time, and that 57,000 is based on only a half a year of loan repayment. So, again, I would say that repayment, right, really in 2021 should have been twice that amount had we had to do the full complete project for the capital
Right.
upgrade. So what happened in 2021 was that we determined that we were able to use a different chemical in the plant for the 6 months of the year, April to October, that you have to use calcium thiosulfate, I believe is what it is. And that is at a minimum a short-term solution to what we have to do with what's going out of the plant. We continue to do that for 2022, and it's very difficult because we're talking about 2021 right now, we're talking about 2022, and we're talking about 2023 as well. So there's 3 years that are going on in there. The gist of it is, we need to continue to budget for that repayment in the event that we are ordered that we have to do it.
Or in the event that we secure funding, perhaps where we
Yes.
have to
Our
put
portion.
our own portion in. So
Exactly.
it's a what if.
Exactly. Well,
Okay.
it's a what if, and it's also, it is also, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought right there. What I was gonna say is we did apply for funding and we were denied at least once, I'm not sure if there was a second time, but at least once for that capital project. So, you know, the whole point is to try to lobby to make sure, and we're not the only municipality in
No.
that situation, but it's your due diligence to be, you know, saving for a future, potential outlay of cash.
But that's why these transfers look this large, is
That-
because that big chunk of money was there.
Yes, and I would also, even in particular, which is, I'm gonna repeat it when we're talking about 2023.
Yeah.
The estimate, not the estimate, the actual cost for that additional chemical in 2020, for the 6 months, it ran for the full 6 months, was just under 15,000. And it has come in, sorry, that was for 2021, was the 15,000. For 2022, what Aqua is estimating, and we have had calls and emails, it's coming in at just under 45,000.
Right.
And, you know, our question is, okay, did it really go up by 300%? Was it just the cost? What's your quantity? Doesn't make sense to me that it would be that much in quantity. That is a little bit different, but I don't really understand the process. So we are waiting for information from Aqua to find out how they are budgeting that. But that, we can talk about that. That's
We're
kind
still
of,
in process with that.
yeah, that's in, more on the 2023
23. Okay.
Yeah,
part,
okay.
so sorry
So
about
we're
that.
staying ahead of the game, in other words.
Okay.
And that last recommendation there, the council transfer from the NWMO Community Wellbeing Reserve, $3,716.27 to cover the 2021 costs of the LNG project. Marlene, you just want to describe that?
Real quick.
Sure, so the LNG project, way back in 2018, for specific questions on the project, I would bring it back to Nathan. But in 2018, Council of the Day passed Resolution 82-18, which committed $100,000 in funding by the municipality to go towards the, I'm gonna call it the research in the LNG project. And to date, we have, of that $100,000 that has been committed, we spent just over 50,000. This 371627 is to cover the cost of what we were actually billed for 2021.
And just so that everyone's on the same page, LNG is the liquefied natural gas.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sorry,
And it's the project that we share with all the other communities.
that's correct.
Okay.
Now it is transitioned from liquid natural gas to compressed.
Yes.
But now the communities banded together to create a corporation called Lakeshore Natural Gas. So we stuck with the acronym because we liked
Yeah.
it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that, for all the explanation. And is this the last thing you need now to get your 2021, sorry Marlene, 2021 financial with the auditors done?
This is not the very final thing. I'm hoping to close the door and put the do not disturb sign on it, because there are 2 schedules that I have to send to them that are based on this information.
Okay.
And then they do their auditing, so,
Okay.
from these lips to God's ears, let's hope that the auditors have it before the 16th of December, because I'm on vacation, and then we can finalize 2021 in
Okay.
January sometime.
Thank you.
Okay, number 4, treasurer report, water and sewer 2023 budget estimates.
Of course, the recommendation that council direct staff to bring forward the necessary water and sewer service rates and fees bylaw, incorporating a 2% water rate increase and a 3% rate increase with sewer rate increase, with the rate increases effective January 1st, 2023.
Do you want me to go?
Sure.
Singularly, I looked over all the information that Marlene provided us, and it was good, Marlene. I was able to go back over the financial information that she had presented to us, and with a better understanding of how that loan reserve worked. And I looked at what she sent, but I also took into account some other factors that are important to me. And given its totality, I cannot support a recommendation for any increases to water or sewer for 2023. And I know I sent an email out, but I understand that for the longest time we've been trying to play catch up and bring our rates within a place where you could actually budget annual expenses. But when I took a look at 2019 to the proposed 2023, we're talking about a 26% price increase overall. I know the 3%, $35 for an annual amount for a family looks like very little, but when you tack it on and you realize it's 26% over the last 5, I just find that astounding. Then there's the transfers that we just discussed with Marlene. And then, of course, looking at the 2022 budget and her providing those numbers, and the numbers that she provided I think are really firm. I'm estimating by the numbers supplied by our staff is that we can expect to have a surplus in 2022 as well. In fact, she pretty much goes ahead and tells us so. And it looks like we can expect somewhere around $52,000 that we're going to be underspent, or we're going to have a surplus. Now that's taking into account nothing different changes, that we find out what's going on with these chemicals and what the expense could be. And that's also taking into account that we would still transfer that money in. That money's been budgeted, and she's saying we're gonna transfer it. So that's still that $54,000 to $57,000. So given that, and given that when I work at 2% on water and a 3% on sewer, and I'm looking really at what amounts to a small increase for sure, but an increase that could be covered, I can't see raising the rates. And then outside of that, just given what's been going on in the economy overall, there's a new thing in Ontario now where you're choosing between heat or eat. I don't want to see us go that way. There was just a report out today. The province of Manitoba has said that people in Manitoba are not buying beef and vegetables because they can't afford it, and they're supplementing with less than desirous food, and they're starting to see health ramifications in 6 months, if you can imagine. And our 2021 stats can says 35% of our population is over the age of 60. Not 50, not 55, 60. And predominantly, these people are living on what my father used to call guaranteed income. Right? But it's limited income. Bank of Canada's raised its rates. It's going to raise it again the first quarter of 2023. They're already talking about it. Price of fuel's up, propane's up, electricity's up, cost of groceries is up, especially here, and not only here. And then taking into account overall that as a leadership team, we raised the taxes 4.9% because we felt we had to for budget rates. I personally just could not follow the recommendation. Is kind of where I sit. And that's just one opinion.
Would you agree with that, Marlene, that we're gonna have that kind of a surplus next year?
From 2022.
Next year, I would not. I don't, for 2023 or for what do you mean next year?
2020, 2023 is up.
No, 2022. She's already showing that we're going to be in a surplus position again.
Yeah, that is what the estimate, what I would say is a budget is a point in time estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say that administration stands behind the recommendation that is here. As I said, a lot, there isn't, even overall in your operating budget, in all of your departments, you don't have a lot of discretionary room in what your expenses are. We're a very, very lean municipality. You take a look at your neighbor to the east and you look at what their staffing level is compared to what your staffing level here is, right? It is very lean. At the end of the day, these are your budgets, right? It is council that sets the budget for overall for taxation. You set the budget for water and sewer. The recommendations forward are, as I said, really taking a look at your 5-year average for what could happen, because again, your core infrastructure is water, sewer, transportation. Those are your core services. And you have aging infrastructure. The current asset management plan right now was saying that water rates should have gone up annually 4% for 10 years, and that was adopted in 2015. So for 10 years, they were recommending, in order to shorten the infrastructure gap that you have, that you should have raised your water rates by 4%. The draft plan that is about to be adopted now is saying you need to do water 4.2% over the next 20 years, just to be able to fund future infrastructure. Wastewater was in 2015 was 2.1% for 10 years. What it is in the draft for going forward is 4.5% for the next 20 years. So even at the 2% and the 3% that's in front of you here, you still are not funding it where it's being recommended. We know you don't have your capital lists from Aqua yet. They were still doing some tweaking there. It's been identified that you do have some issues down at your wastewater plant. Your wastewater plant is much older than your water plant is. And there's the potential for some pretty significant projects coming up in addition to the dechlor, if that's what you end up having to do, and your building upgrades. Phase 2 is going to be coming for those building electrical upgrades that are down there, never mind everything else that is happening down there. Your water treatment plant, whatever the results are from your 2022 capital list, which I always get these two mixed up. I'm not sure if it's the filter assessment study or if it's the turbidity analyzer, but one of them, depending on what that result could mean, a whole, God forbid, a whole new water treatment plant or new filters at your plant, right? So we're talking about significant potential issues that you're going to have to do. Water and sewer, water especially, sewer is getting there, but is a highly regulated department. So,
And I think the.
and you're tasked, sorry Nathan, I
Yeah.
apologize, but I can't see you over the chair. But you are tasked with providing safe drinking water to your ratepayers, right? So,
Well, we discussed most service levels for our core infrastructure. Most of it is set to meet certain standards, whether it's snow removal, there are minimum standards set by the province over there. We know that we have to meet those minimum standards. Drinking water and now moving towards wastewater effluent has become so incredibly regulated. And the main impetus of spending has been in order to maintain those regulations. We're regularly inspected, and major projects did stem out of that from the reservoir. We're looking at the Ontario Street water reline, and I mean, for a long time there, we had residents who were getting discolored water for a long time. This was another project that, with all these projects, major projects, even the wastewater treatment plant, the condition that the electrical got to was just so substantially bad that, you know, I had an ESA order that was, thou shalt fix this right now, otherwise we're shutting it down. I mean, it got pretty dramatic in that sense. So we're pretty much playing catch up with a lot of regulations, and you never want to be in that situation where we can't, essentially be in that situation where we're not ready for these major expenses.
I would agree. I would agree with you. I think you're totally right. But we just moved $134,000 into reserve from 2021. We're going to move that loan amount, even though we would have to, I mean, I don't know what everybody else thinks. If we ever get hit with that effluent dechlorination, there isn't enough money. We couldn't borrow it. We'd be broke. We'd have to fund it. We're still going to move an additional $52,000 in, and you're going to have a surplus left over. And what we're really talking about, if I use Marlene's numbers, a 2% increase on water and a 3% increase on sewer amounts to just under $22,000 in the 2023 budget. I agree. I promised voters I would be open and transparent and fiscally responsible. But I hate the thoughts of being fiscally responsible on the voters' backs. And I'm not disagreeing. Next year you're going to come to me and say we need another increase, and there might not be any way around it. I just think there's got to be another way. We sharpen up pencils, we take a look at budgets, we go over it again, we find funders. That's just...
I don't know, water and sewer is a hard place to cut. Like, there's so many things you gotta, the guides and the whole bit. I agree with you that we're putting some away in the reserves and all that. And so I'm sitting here wondering, like, I don't want to get caught again and have to do big increases like we had to do to get back in the game. And we had to get back in the game during a pandemic, and that even made it worse with your costs of everything going up, and the propane and electricity, chemicals, everything, and we're getting chemicals again this year. That's given us an issue, and Nathan said in the spring we're going to be putting that Ontario Street reline out for bid. So that project's going to be a go. But I mean, sitting here wondering, like, what we're talking is $8.70 a quarter. I'm wondering if we could knock the 2 and the 3 down to 1.5 each. if that, it would give us some money going towards, but it would also give some relief. I think that would probably be, I crunched the number earlier, I think it was $5 and something a quarter. It's just a thought.
Yeah, well, I sit in this chair, I see how we get sometimes blindsided with costs and everything's gone up this year especially with inflation that's maxed out around 8%.
I agree as well. I mean, it's hard to keep looking at increases, but you know, you look at the big picture. The chemicals, to me, it almost sounds like a Band-Aid, and it's becoming a really expensive Band-Aid when we talk about 15 as opposed to 40 year over year. You know, we talk about regulations, and when I hear regulations and we may need something, to me it's when. It's just a matter of when, right? So I think we need to be prepared. So I do agree with you that there needs to be something, but at the same time, you know, how and where we get it, we need to. I think we need to. I know that Marlene said that we were denied a grant at some point in time, but I think we should be on the path hard towards something. But it's definitely a concern for sure.
And I mean, from my side here, you know, definitely the focus on grants is there. We want to bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars each year in grant money, and in order to keep these costs low. I mean, the challenge though is sometimes, right, when the regulatory bodies say they want this done now and we don't have the right grant in place, at that point we just have to go the route of financing. The costs in general throughout the community too is especially hard hit on us, where we're one of the largest users of propane, electricity with our big buildings here. So I mean, we always will be seeing that increase in our electricity costs. Always has an impact on our operating costs as well.
One thing that you haven't discussed about the sewer treatment plant is in order to stay compliant, that our ECA is already telling us that we're supposed to have is the grinders in the troughs. Those are not in place at the moment. We have to do that this year. That's going to be at least 200 grand to get done. They've also indicated to us that aeration pipe that they replaced last January, they have identified more stainless steel pipe that is literally just crumbling. And so they have given us a heads up that that's going to be, you know, 30 to 40,000 to replace that pipe as well, if not to reroute it. So you've got a lot of things that you have to do to stay compliant, but then you've got your regulation that we've all got our heads up on, that's coming down the tubes between your electrical upgrades, your UV light. The second that we touch the ECA, we're going to have to do the UV light. They've already warned us that.
Yeah, I don't think we want to fall behind. Is it easier to do it this year, or raise it slightly, and rather than next year and double it, triple it?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a hard call, and I mean, we're average. A lot of people disagree with it. Like I hear that Schreiber's is the highest bill. I did a little thing, 8 communities and 1 being the highest and 8 being the lowest, and I just went to the communities that I could figure out, and one of them's down east, but the other 7 are from around here, and Schreiber sits 7th. Bancroft is one community down south. They're over $600 a quarter, and by any means I'm not going anywhere near that. But you're looking at Greenstone is they're pretty close to 5, and there's other communities in there that are 4 something that quarter, and we're sitting at 358 right now. So
I agree that management is not asking for a lot. 2% and 3% is $20,000. It's not a lot. But when it's cumulative, when you tack it on to everything else that people are being forced to pay right now, it's starting to feel overwhelming.
It's a tough one because my thought is the expense is inevitable. It's coming. Like whether we, you know. So.
These are so. These services are so essential to our comfort and well-being in our community, and the thing is, they cost money. Everything costs money. It costs money. You want to have clean water. You want to be able to flush your toilet. And have that facility, and I agree with Marlene that plant. I've seen it over the past 4 years. The expenses down there, and what comes out of the blue with an aging facility, and you got to stay ahead of it. You certainly don't want to fall behind. And I know staff has done. Marlene and Nathan have done a lot of work on this, and it's. Try to keep the costs down and try to keep the rate down, but the bottom line is we got to keep these facilities running the best they can.
okay. Yeah, it's $8.71 a quarter. It's, I mean, versus the last couple of years, and we had no choice.
I agree. A 26% rate increase in the last 4 years is big. That's huge.
Yeah, no,
You were catching up. I got you. I just, to me, it's a hard pill to swallow when I watch surplus numbers like these being dumped out. That's all I'm saying. I'm done.
What would
And I'm not trying to convince you guys to change your mind. Let's
No,
be straight with
no,
that.
no.
I just want to let you know that's really how I feel.
It's the last thing I want to see
Well, no,
as well, but I just, it's one of those things, right? It's like,
I mean, we're not sitting here.
I feel like it's a pay me now, pay me later type of thing, like it's coming at us. Maybe I'm wrong. Just with things that are regulated like this, just my personal opinion, if they say something's coming, it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. The regulations are killing us. but it's nothing we can control.
What's been especially shocking is the just how large these expenses are. And typically when you want to talk about like long-term financial planning, you'd say, okay, this expense is coming along. For a bit with the dechlor, that was the expectation. It was years when they announced that, but there was always an expectation, maybe there's going to be a grant coming along. And eventually the regulation came into place and it was, well, now we need to suddenly dechlorinate, right? As Tammy's talking about, is discovered that these grinders need to be there as part of the ECA. Suddenly we have a boil water event due to spring turnover, and from the inspection that comes out of that, you need to do a study. And that was part of our drinking water license. We had no choice about that. And now part of what that study comes back with may be major capital expenses. So that's sort of the scare. It's not just the aging infrastructure, which your asset management plan is saying you're not putting away enough money into the reserves. And once we finish the latest asset management plan, is just going to increase that as being worse. It's just major capital expenses for water that do come forward, and that surplus which we put away is going to be the capacity that will provide you maybe financing capability at a what do you say, higher interest rate. May be able to leverage it also for grants, right?
Okay, the recommendation here is for staff to bring a 2% water increase and a 3% sewer increase, which equates to $8.71 a quarter. May as well go around the table. Dan?
Yeah.
Benji?
Yeah. Yep.
Anne Marie? And I say yes too. Okay. So you can bring that forward next meeting. Director of Operations report.
Recommendation from the Director of Operations that the Council of the Township of Schreiber accept the fixed price quotation from Superior Propane in the amount of 0.7109 cents per liter, excluding applicable taxes, and the annual tank rental of $1,771.32, excluding applicable taxes, for the supply of propane for the period of December 1st, 2022 to November 30th, 2023.
Tammy, do you want to give them a little bit of more information, or Nathan, you want to speak to this?
Tammy, you can go ahead.
Okay, so it's a 3-year contract that I'm proposing that we enter into. It's basically the handshake between Superior Propane and Schreiber so that we can do business. There is a fixed price rate that will renew every year. It's based on so many liters that, based on our history, that we would use, with a 10% leeway on either side of that. They then negotiate with the refinery that we're going to use that many liters, and so they come back and say, okay, we can sell you that many liters for this much money. So they're proposing for this year 71 cents. We were in a 1-year contract last year. The reason for that is because with the inflation, with COVID and all the price increases, Superior Propane was in a situation where they had to do some catch up. So they would not enter into another 3-year contract last year. Schreiber tried negotiating the 1-year extension, and again, they would not entertain that as well. They needed to enter into a 1-year contract with their users in order to allow for the propane price to settle. As a result of that, they are ready to enter into a 3-year contract with Schreiber now. We will be dropping from 73 cents a liter that we're currently paying down to 71 cents a liter.
I love the price savings. You're gonna have to update, I think you and I talked about this, but your procurement policy states that you will renegotiate propane every 2 years. So if you intend on signing a 3-year contract, you're gonna have to update that bylaw.
Absolutely.
Just an FYI.
So Tammy, this 71 cents a liter, that's just until next year?
That will expire November 30th, 2023.
Okay, and then it could be lower or higher, hopefully lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and additionally, when we did go into that 1-year contract, at the time also the hope was that the LNG project would, move forward, and with no progress in that and limited progress forecasted for the future, I think this 3-year contract will serve us pretty well. At least with the way that commodities are increasing these days, I think it's a good idea.
No, I'm all for that.
Yep.
You're good with that, Anne-Marie?
Good with that, just update the bylaw. I don't want to
Yeah.
make a recommendation that breaks bylaw.
Okay.
Please and thank you.
Okay, that brings our meeting
There.
to an end, I believe. So resolution 339-22, moved by Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Bryson, that the meeting now adjourn at 9:49 p.m. All those in favor? Carried.